and welcome to Thursday Thoughts. On this, our second week of Advent and our series, 'Tis the Season. We have special guests who are co-hosting with us all month long with Brian and I. So last week, you got to catch Father Dole and Brian, and it was an awesome video. If you haven't watched it yet, please do. It is on our YouTube page. Just click on our videos or something, and you'll find it there. And you'll get a good dose of caffeine-fueled men talking about the Bible with some awesome talk about Advent and waiting and preparing. And this week, we get Gina Sebeka, who has so graciously volunteered to talk with me about Isaiah 40, verses 1 through 11. You want to say anything? No,
I'm good.
You're good? All right, you're going to wait until we have something to talk about. So I want to just give you a little bit of background about what is going on here before we read our text tonight. So last week we were in Jeremiah, and Jeremiah was speaking when they had been under siege. Judah had been under siege for about a year by Babylon. So Babylon, they had not fallen fully to Babylon yet. And now we're jumping ahead to Isaiah. And Isaiah is writing after Judah and Jerusalem have entirely fallen to Babylon. And King Nebuchadnezzar has destroyed the temple and taken all of the people out of Jerusalem and into exile in Babylonia. So these are people who are without their home, without their place of worship, who maybe are missing family members who died in the siege that was going on. And so Isaiah is in this text, at least, trying to offer a word of hope to people in exile, to people who are without any comfort that they've known, to people who feel like God has maybe forgotten them or left them or did this to them. And so Isaiah offers the words of the Lord in chapter 40, verses 1 through 11. Comfort, O comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and cry to her that she has served her term, that her penalty is paid, that she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins. A voice cries out in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be lifted up, and every mountain and hill be made low. The uneven ground shall become level, and the rough places a plain. Then the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all the people shall see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. A voice says, cry out. And I said, what shall I cry? All people are grass. Their constancy is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades, when the breath of the Lord blows upon it. Surely the people are grass. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of God will stand forever. Get you up to a high mountain, O Zion, herald of good tidings. Lift up your voice with strength, O Jerusalem, herald of good tidings. Lift it up, do not fear. Say to the cities of Judah, here is your God. See, the Lord comes with might, and his arm rules for him. His reward is with him, and his recompense before you. He will feed his flock like a shepherd. He will gather the lambs in his arms and carry them in his bosom, and gently lead the mother sheep. So this is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. So Gina, I'm just gonna, any initial thoughts, anything you want to initially talk about from Isaiah? What did you think of when you read it?
Well, when I read it, I thought of this is, like you said earlier, this is not comforting. It does not sound all that happy. And it sounds like they talk about how it's supposed to be the most comforting, the most peaceful part of the Bible. I didn't feel that.
Yeah, so this text is called, to be the most comforting text there is in all the Bible. And I didn't feel that way when I read it. Yes, prepare the way, the Lord is coming. Your punishment is done now. You've paid your penalty double. But I don't know. It doesn't sound empathetic. We
really.
talked about this before the camera came on. That in our house we have what our therapist calls choice rules, which is when you choose to do something, so you choose to have a consequence. So in our house right now, it is hurting. If you intentionally hurt somebody, you choose to intentionally hurt somebody, you choose to go to bed 15 minutes early. And this tends to happen to our daughter a little bit more because she's a little older. And she'll cry and she'll whine, and I'll say, well, you chose this. Like, you chose to hurt your brother, so you chose to go to bed 15 minutes early. And we were talking about, like, that's kind of what this feels like. Well, you chose to stop being faithful to God, so you chose to have your city destroyed and be sent into exile. And yeah, that's
not comforting.
Not comforting. I'm not sure. I guess, what would you want to hear? If you are these people in exile, you were unfaithful to God, you lived in this terrible siege of Babylon taking over you, and now you've lost your home and your temple and you're in this foreign land, what would you want to hear?
I think I'd really want another chance. Like, I know I probably don't deserve one, but, like, I really want to be like, hey, I guess I can give you another chance. Just don't mess up next time.
So forgiveness.
Yeah.
And an opportunity to try again and to do things differently. Yeah, I agree. I think I also would just, I don't know, want to be validated that it sucks. Like, I don't know. It doesn't in here anyway say, I'm really sorry you're in this situation.
Yeah.
Like, I even if you chose it yourself, I'm really sorry that you are in exile. I'm really sorry that you lost your home and your temple. Like, it just says, she has been punished enough and more than enough, and now it's over and done with. It does say forgiven. That she has served her sentence, that her sin is taken care of, forgiven. But no, this really sucks. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. And then for me, the other part of it is, like, the grass withers and the flower fades. If God so much as puffs on them, aren't these people just so much grass? Like, God could puff on you and you would wither and fade.
Yep.
And I know people, maybe find that comforting. But I don't.
No.
I don't find that comforting.
I guess, like, a level of control in our lives. Like, oh, we did this? Well, that's my choice, isn't it? Like, why should I be punished for my choice or something?
Yeah.
So, like, I guess if God, like, rules on, like, if he puffs on you, like, you're gone, well, like, why can't I keep living? Why do you have to do that?
Well, and I guess my relationship with God has been much more mutual than one-sided. And this is very one-sided. God puffs on me and I wither and I'm gone. Whereas that's not how my life with God has worked. My life with God has been a give and take and a push and a pull, and has very much been God saying something and me saying something back. I think more of Moses, when God is going to smite all of the people, and Moses says, but wait, what if there are 5 faithful people?
Yeah.
In that relationship, you see the give and take of God and God's creation trying to figure this out together. And I guess for me, that's always what I think of God much more as. And I think that's true in the life of Jesus. It is much more give and take. I think in particular of the Syrophoenician woman, and Jesus says it's not right to feed to the dogs what is meant for the children of Israel. And she says, don't even the dogs get table scraps? Come on, dude.
Yeah.
And Jesus realizes, oh, I need to heal her daughter too.
Mm-hmm.
There again, it's that give and take. And I guess that's always the relationship I think of when I think of my relationship with God. It's much more mutual.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say God doesn't have more power than me in the relationship, but I think of parenting. I One of the rules is that we always have to give our kids a reason when we need them to do something. So if I say, Coral, go brush your teeth, that's not good enough. Mm-hmm. I need to say, Coral, we need to get to school, so we need to brush our teeth. Please go brush your teeth so we can go to school. And then she understands why she's doing that and what's going on. And the same, with, in any relationship, I think you want to know what's going on. Mm-hmm. I think of, you're in college, and I think of busy work. Like, sometimes professors assign things, and you're like, dude, this is not in any way
Definitely.
Like, have a reason behind it. This is just busy work. And I think professors are probably the worst at not giving you a reason. Like, if a professor would hand you something and say, this is why we're doing this, and kind of explain why you're doing it, then maybe you wouldn't look at it and be like, this is busy work. Like, mm-hmm. that daily essay you make me write, those were the worst. Like,
those are my favorite.
Really? Oh, I thought
those were my favorite. I like writing.
That was just busy work for me. But yeah, so I guess that's
yeah.
We had a few questions that we were going to look at, and we might have covered some of these already. How do you think these words would make an exiled people, a people who want to return to their own country, feel? And it says that they've paid their sentence, and that it's over, and that God is coming. But I don't know is that it says they're going to get their land back.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I was just rereading to make sure before I talked about that.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily say you're going to go home or you're going to get your land back. It does say that God is coming, and that God is going to pay back his enemies and reward those who have loved him, and that God will be like a shepherd caring for his flock, gathering the lambs in his arms, hugging them as he carries them, leading the nursing ewes to good pasture. So it says they're going to have good pasture, but again, that's not necessarily, I don't know, it doesn't overtly say to me, hey, you're going back home.
Yeah. I think that's the same with your kids, like, send them to bed 15 minutes early, but if they say sorry, you can't just take the punishment away, like, take it back. Like, you have to show them discipline.
Yes. And so maybe that is a little bit of what's going on here. Like, you did this, you've been punished, and I'm gonna show you love and care, but you still have to deal with the consequences.
Yeah.
And I think it would be comforting in a foreign land to know that you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think it would be comforting to know that God is gonna lead you in that foreign land to good pasture, and that you that the enemies are gonna find their what's due them. I guess.
Due justice.
Especially thinking of how vulnerable they would have been in that foreign land, as refugees, as people exiled for whatever reason from their country. And I think about how we treat our refugees, or how we treat people coming into our country, and how they're looked down upon, how they're criticized for the languages that they speak, and how terrible that must feel. How, in their country they might have been a doctor, and they come here and they can barely get work as a janitor. And so how much they probably need to hear that word of comfort that God is with you, and God is going to help you, and God is going to find you a green pasture in this foreign place.
Yeah. There's a lot of like groups out there like that are supposed to like help people like when they come to the country or something, or like if you have a prison group and like have like the re-entry teams, like they did something bad, but they're coming back into society. I think like they're reintegrating, they're with them.
Yes, yeah, and that is, you know, the re-entry team, I think, is a really good example. Like you did something that caused a prison sentence to come about, but you've done your prison sentence, and now it's time to comfort you and to lead you and to help guide you back into full integration in society. And I think that's a population that we don't do that with either. You know, when somebody has that convict or ex-con or the felony records, or, you know, how much more difficult it is for them to get a job, or to be a part of society fully, to start from nothing when they're released, and how we treat them as well. Are we offering them that forgiveness that God says here? I like this translation. This is the Message, so it's a paraphrase. It's not a word for word translation of the Hebrew, but that she has served. Make it very clear. She has served her sentence. Her sin is taken care of, forgiven. She has been punished enough. Now it's over and done with. And to actually believe that, to see somebody who has, you know, I come out of prison or out of a negative situation. You know, even if you think about just like kids at school who have served their detention, sometimes teachers have a hard time letting that go. And even from grade to grade, they were labeled as the bad kid or whatever it might be. But what if we just seriously said, you've served your time, your punishment is over, it's done, you're forgiven. That part maybe is more comforting than we give it credit.
Yeah.
Maybe it really is. Maybe that's the most comforting part of it all.
The forgiveness.
The forgiveness of it. Yeah. Yeah. So how are you at forgiveness? Do you forgive people easily?
I try to. Maybe not so much my little brother, but I think that's another story. That
doesn't count.
That doesn't count, honestly. But I think I try to forgive people. Like, I look at their past and I look at what they're doing now, and I think I don't try to judge people for what they do or what they've done in the past. And I think I like to give, I give a lot of advice. I think that covers one of the questions, but I think they always come for me for advice because I don't judge them based on what they do, and they just want honest answers. But they also want to be comforted, I think. So I try not to judge as hard as I can. Maybe not show my judgment.
Keep it internal a little bit.
Because it's integrated into our society that we judge people for what they do and stuff. So I'm like, well, I may have judgments of my first thought, but you gotta go past that, I think.
I think it's really easy for me to forgive people or to show people grace when they've made a mistake, or when when they've done something that was just kind of stupid, you know. But when they've hurt me, even, I'm really good at forgiving people when they've hurt me. But it's when they've hurt my family that I struggle the most with this. Like, even after they've apologized or even after they've kind of, done their punishment or paid their time or whatever it might be, for me, I still remember that, and I still kind of punish them a little bit. Like, there's someone who hurt Brian, who he works with in a professional capacity. And I know this happened. I don't know if this person knows I know it happened, but every time I see them, I just think, oh, I can't stand you. And anytime Brian talks to me about them, I have negative thoughts.
Yep.
I really do. I so have not said, it's done, it's over. And I mean, this person has said and done things to try and make it right. And Brian and this person have a great relationship. Brian has forgiven this person. But for me, I'm like, no, No, it's not done and over with.
You gotta say sorry to the family.
So I need to work on saying it's done and over with when somebody hurts someone I love. That's the place I struggle most to offer grace. Yeah. Well, is there anything else directly about the text you want to talk about? We're gonna move into some Advent songs here in just a minute. But anything else directly from the text that sticks out to you?
I think we covered everything I was thinking of.
Okay.
We covered everything.
So we talked a little bit about how do you think the Israelites living in exile would have heard this good news, and we talked about maybe the forgiveness is really the good news part of this.
Yeah.
But the other question is how is this good news for you?
For me.
Yes, that's the other part of this question.
What was that thing?
It's this.
It was on the side. Okay.
Yeah, it's where is it? Oh, this one. Here.
Yeah. What do you think? I think for me, I think it's really hard to forgive ourselves if we do something wrong, if we do something to hurt someone, or we do something that maybe wasn't a good choice in our life. And I don't know, I feel like I don't forgive myself really that well, being a musician and all. I critique myself pretty hard.
Okay.
I'm just in the moment, that's what I did, and I have to deal with it. I have to learn from that lesson. I think that's what's good about me. Good for that is God's there to advise me and teach me what to do next, I think.
Okay. Awesome. So a little bit of guidance as well. There's the good news for you here. That you messed up. Played the wrong note, or I don't know, some musical thing. But you can learn from it and you can grow from it, and that is over and done with, or not quite. Do you quite take that away?
I try as my hardest when I perform to be okay, this is what I did. I did the best I could in that situation. Time to move on to the next thing.
Okay, so. That is good news. That hopefully we can move on to the next thing. So Advent. This is an Advent text, and the reason it is an Advent text is because it's talking about preparing and waiting for the coming of the Lord. That this is going to happen. The Lord is going to come, and that is what Advent is about. It's about preparing and waiting for Emmanuel, God with us, to come and to be not only born when we remember and celebrate the birth, but also we're preparing and waiting for that second coming when we will have that heavenly banquet and feast with Jesus, the new heaven and the new earth, and all of those promises will be fully fulfilled. And we know Christmas music has been playing for weeks now, and this year I am really bad. I usually don't listen to Christmas music, but I bought a Christmas CD. Sidecar, the coffee shop, my favorite coffee shop, is doing a benefit CD. All local artists singing different Christmas songs, and the proceeds go to 2 different local organizations that do good. And so I bought this Christmas CD, and I have been playing it on repeat for probably a couple weeks now. And it's really hard to avoid Christmas music in the stores. Yeah. All the channels have switched to 24/7 Christmas music. And even if you're not a Christmas music person yourself, I guarantee there's someone in your family that is making you listen to it. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But so our goal for this next week is to try and listen to some Advent music. So we grabbed our hymnals, and if you are a good United Methodist, you have stolen a hymnal from a church. No, mine was given to me, but mine does say Broadway United Methodist on it. But so in our red hymnals, there are little markers, little at the top of the page that have different categories. And the Advent one, if you look for Promised Coming, lists a whole bunch of Advent songs. That is kind of what Advent is about, the promised coming. So Come Thou Long Expected Jesus, that is one of them that is really common that a lot of us know. O come, Emmanuel. Emmanuel, Emmanuel, that is another one.
Anything with Emmanuel.
Yes, we joked that if you find a song with Emmanuel, you're probably good. It's probably an Advent song. there was another one. Oh, lo, how an rose air blooming. That is one that people seem to know somewhat as well. But we found a couple that we thought were interesting. The first one is All Earth is Waiting. And it's number 210 if you have the red United Methodist hymnal. It doesn't actually have to be red. There are other colors of them too. But if you have just the basic United Methodist hymnal. I'm not a singer, so I'm not going to try and sing this. And I don't know that Gina has ever heard it, so
No.
she might not want to try and sing it either. But all the earth is waiting to see the promised one. And the open furrows, the sowing of the Lord, all the world bound and struggling seeks true liberty. It cries out for justice and searches for the truth. Thus says the prophet to those of Israel, a virgin mother will bear Emmanuel. For his name is God with us, our brother shall be. With him hope will blossom once more within our hearts. Mountains and valleys will have to be made plain. Open new highways for the Lord. He is now coming closer, so come all and see, and open the doorways as wide can be. So verse 4 kind of moves into Christmas a little bit more, so we're going to stop at verse 3. What are some of your thoughts on this song, Gina?
I thought it replicated the text really well, like the ending text.
Yes, the mountains and the valleys. Verse 3
Yeah.
especially is, and I don't know, actually it does say that it comes from Isaiah 40, verses 3 through 5.
Yeah, so that might be why.
So that might be why. Yeah. And I like the part where it says that we are seeking true liberty and we're crying out for justice. That is what we should be doing.
Yeah.
As a world, we should be seeking true liberty and crying out for justice. And I think that's our text talks about too. Cry out to the Lord. Are we crying out to God about what's going on? Are we crying out to God about the injustices, about the pain, and not just our own, but that we see in the world, so that God can respond and say, Emmanuel, God is with us. I think that's really
Yeah.
great. So the other song we marked is "Lift Up Your Heads, Ye Mighty Gates." And here again, I've never heard this song.
Nope.
Lift up your heads, ye mighty gates. Behold, the King of glory waits. The King of kings is drawing near. The Savior of the world is here. Fling wide the portals of your heart. Make it a temple set apart from earthly use for heaven's employ, adorned with prayer and love and joy. Redeemer, come with us abide. Our hearts to thee we open wide. Let us thy inner presence feel, thy grace and love in us reveal. Thy Holy Spirit lead us on until our glorious goal is won. Eternal praise, eternal fame, be offered, Savior, to thy name.
Yeah, I think that one just talks about opening your heart a lot and just letting crying out to God, saying this is what is wrong, what can I do, I need help.
Yeah, so, and I think it is kind of more of a twofold here. Not only are you supposed to open your heart to God, but you're supposed to separate your heart from the earth and let it be used for heaven's employ. And I think that's really a big part of it, a big part of what Advent is supposed to be. It's supposed to be humbling ourselves before God, opening ourselves up to receive God with us, Emmanuel, and to be used by that. If we think of Mary, Mary is kind of the ultimate flinging her heart open, allowing God to use her for heaven's employ. But you can think of Elizabeth and Zechariah as well, who are the parents of John the Baptist, who we'll look at 2 weeks from today. Will be John the Baptist's story. They're people who really did open their hearts to God to be used. And if you think about the people highlighted in the Bible, the people who have made eternal history in the Word of God, they're people who open their hearts wide to be used by God. And some of them failed miserably. I'm not going to lie about that. But they all did. They all had the one deep desire to be used by God. Even if they got it entirely wrong, that was their desire, was to be used by God for heaven's employ. And what would that look like in Advent if you allowed yourself to be employed by heaven?
Well, I was thinking of your mission, like during December, you wear a dress every single day of December. That's quite an uptake since it's freezing.
I don't have my button on that says "Ask me about my dress." This is the second day in a row I have forgotten my button, but I do. I wear a dress every day of December with the hopes to raise awareness about human trafficking. Sorry, I'm thinking. I don't have my "Ask me about my dress." I have my December button in my bag, but and that it is one way that I hope that I'm being used by God to raise funds and awareness about the 40 million people currently enslaved in our world, and how we can do something about it. We can prepare the way for the Lord by bringing freedom and justice to so many who are enslaved in our world. Yeah.
I know in high school I was a huge advocate for like the LGBTQ community, and like I might have been the only one who would like stick up for those values, and I think a lot of teachers like that about me. But I think every Christmas, like everyone has a mission or a feel good part of themselves where they want to do charity or they want to volunteer or something like homeless shelters. Like people go to homeless shelters every Christmas and just help out, and I think maybe that's God's nudging us like to help out. Maybe not just only Christmas, but I think it's the time of Jesus' birth. We have to give back to Him and like open our hearts. He opens His, and we have to follow Him, I think.
Yeah, I really like that. Christmas does seem to be the time where people are more giving and nicer sometimes, just in general to one another. You know, that holiday spirit gets involved. But why aren't we that way year round? Why aren't we flinging our hearts open wide for God the whole year, to be the voice for the voiceless? If you think about those who are trafficked in our world and the LGBTQ community, to be advocates and allies with them, and there are so many other groups as well that they could be shown love, and not just one day or 4 weeks a year, but all year long.
Yeah.
And that's what Advent is about opening our hearts to God and giving back and preparing our hearts and our world for God to come. And I guess for me right now, like if God came into our world right now, like if I would be embarrassed.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I imagine your house being as messy as messy can be, and your mom showing up, like, I don't know, or your pastor showing up. Maybe that's what freaks you out. For me, it's DHS showing up. Like, you know, would I be embarrassed to have DHS in my home right now? I would be embarrassed to have God in the world right now, in our earthly home, with the pain and the destruction and the injustice that is going on. Yeah.
I think on like the pain side, but I think the other half of it is like it's really hard to open yourself up year round and be that kind of person. Like it's really it's accepted in society like around Christmas for whatever reason, but like year round that takes a lot of work. And like I know when I was in high school and I was being an advocate, I was like, okay, I have to be open wide about my feelings and my values, and that was hard coming from like a really small town school and just being myself and trying to like not judge people for their identities and just like sticking up for what I believed in even when like people push me down. I think
it takes a huge level of vulnerability.
It does.
You're putting yourself at risk constantly, and that can be exhausting. And so that is so true. To do that all the time, 100% of the time, and I think about even with December. I always have these grand things that I'm going to keep posting even after December's over, and I'm going to, share stories, and I'm going to wear a dress every Tuesday and post something every Tuesday. And I don't.
That's a lot of work.
It takes so much time and energy, and I even questioned doing December this year with our life change over this last year. I thought, well, I don't know. And, day 2 this morning, all I wanted was my sweatpants. Granted, I have on leggings. They're pretty much the same thing, according to my husband, but I just wanted my sweatpants. So, yeah, that's a really good point. So maybe part of giving back to God and preparing the way for God year round, a big part of that is finding a support system and using that support system. I think sometimes we have those support systems, we just aren't willing to reach out to them and use them and ask for people to help us. We am part of a Love Box group through Cedar Valley Angels, which partners with a foster family to bring support to them, because foster family burnout is super high rates. And I really wanted to do this, but the thought of doing it was kind of overwhelming. Well, 5 of us families here in the congregation have joined together, and so every 5 months I'm buying something to support this family. Like, I'm doing the shopping and the delivering and things once every 5 months. And so when you do it like that, I'm doing it year round. We're all involved in this year round, but the heavy labor part I only have really twice a year. And so if you can find a group to join and to kind of share the load of what you're doing, and if you have a certain passion for a certain injustice that you want to right, and you want to find an organization to partner with, talk with me. The United Methodist Church, we have an organization for everything. We love our organizations. And so let me know, and I would love to hook you up with some awesome people. Iowa United in Love is a group I should hook you up with, because you would love them. So any other closing thoughts or anything before we end this thing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think of
well, I want to
anything clever.
I want to thank you so much for joining us. Once again, this is Gina Sebeka, and I am Pastor Alex Breeding here at First United Methodist Church in Jessup, Iowa. We want to thank you for joining us for this week's Thursday Thoughts, and we can't wait to see you on Sunday when we continue the conversation on Isaiah chapter 40, verses 1 through 11. Happy Advent!